Okay, so it's time to make a waistband for the skirt. I've still got the hem to do, but I got everything sewn down with the zipper, and I basted the lining in, and I've done the pleats, but I just did a tuck so I can press that and kind of make it flatter. So now I'm ready to do the waistband. So the first thing you're going to say is, how long should it be? Very good question. So what I did is I measured this, and see, when I sew this up, you can see that it's going to end up like that. The waistband will be right there. So I measured from here around to here. And when I measured the skirt, I got 34 inches. So then I looked at the measurements for the person I'm making this for, and they're 32. So if I take my 32 and I add 1.5 inches of ease, that's 33.5. This is 34, but I'm going to make my waistband 34.5, so it'll be 1/2 inch smaller. So then I'll ease it in. So you can have your waistband be 1/2 inch smaller, but any more than that, you'll probably have problems trying to ease them in. Because this is coming up over the hips, and your waistband is, the bottom of your waistband starts at your waist, it can be a little bit smaller. That's normal. But as some of the students were comparing their waist measurement to the skirt, we had one yesterday where the student was a little bit, her waist circumference was a little bit bigger than her skirt. I'm not sure how that happened because the skirt fit her fine. So what I did is I just had her go ahead and make her waistband the same measurement as the skirt, because obviously it had a little bit of ease in, even though the measurements didn't work out. So what you want to do is measure the skirt, and kind of decide what the best length would be for you. Again, you can have about 1/2 inch, the waistband be 1/2 inch less, but you do not want your waistband more than your skirt, which is why I told her not to do her waistband more, even though her waist, I mean, it was only like 1/4 inch or so. So but I didn't want a bigger waistband, so I said just make it the same amount circumference, and then it should fit fine. So that's how I decided how long to make my skirt. Okay, now let's talk about making the pattern now. Okay, so the skirt waistband is going to be 33.5, 1/2 inch smaller than the skirt, and enough ease for her. So what I did is I measured, and I did a long line, and the line is 33.5. Then I added 5/8 of an inch on this side. And on this side, I also want to put in 1.5 inch extension for the underlap to do my hook and eyes. And then I also have 5/8 here for seam allowance. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is decide how wide I want the skirt to be. Okay, I'm going to use the 1 inch interfacing, and so I need 2 inches wide, but I also need a seam allowance, 2 seam allowances. So I want this to be 3 1/4, okay? So that means, so I'm just gonna mark that. So that's 1 inch for the band, 1 inch, another inch for the facing, and then 5/8 and 5/8, which is 5/8 and 5/8 is 1 1/4 inch. So that's 2 plus 1 1/4, that's 3 1/4. So I'm just gonna measure this along here, put a little mark, and I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. Okay, and then I'll join it at the end. Okay, that looks pretty good. This is where a nice, let me see if that's working. Okay, you want to get a pencil. Mechanical pencils work good. Just make sure there's some lead there for you to work with. Okay, all right, so I have that. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I need to square this off here. Let me get that going. Okay, there's that. And then I'm going to square it off here. And I like to do it this way, and then I can keep my ruler nice and at a right angle. Okay, all right. So there you have it. Now, The actual waistband itself is from here to here. So I'm going to measure that. I want to mark center front and the side seams. So I'm going to measure that. That's my 33.5, and I'm going to find the middle. Okay, half of 30 is 15. Half of 3 is 1.5 inches. And then half of a half is 1/4. So there's 16 3/4. So there's the center front. Okay, now to do the side, so that means my side, each side is 16 3/4. I just want to make sure my math is correct. I'm going to measure that. Yep, 16 3/4. Okay, now the front is 1 inch bigger than the back. So if I take 16 3/4 and I add 1/2 inch, so that's 16 3/4, so that's 17 1/4. Now I've got to divide 17 1/4 in half. Okay, this is where this comes in handy. 17 1/4, and if I just take my measuring tape and I go find the middle, I'm at 8 5/8. So then I'm going to go 8 5/8 here, and I'm going to go 8 5/8 here. Okay, then I take that 16, just so I don't forget anything, 16 3/4, and I minus 1/2 inch. So I added 1/2 inch to the front. I'm going to minus 1/2 inch to the back. So that gives me 16 1/4, which should be 8. 16 1/4, half of that is 8 1/8. So 8 1/8. Aha, perfect. Okay, so I went ahead and found center front, right side, left side. And on, this is the front half, I did 1 inch bigger. So I added 1/2 inch. This and this is the back waist, the back circumference for the waist, and I minus 1/2 inch, so it worked out. Now when you have a pattern, you look at it and you put it up to a body. This is the right side, so if you're thinking this would go like this on me, this is the left side and this is the right side. So now that I have those, I'm going to go ahead and use this little ruler so I can make a nice square. I can square it off, and there's my center front, and this I just need to make like a notch here. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my fold line, and so it should go right down the middle. So this is 3 1/4, which means at 1 5/8, that should be the middle. So now I'm going to go ahead and draw my fold line to my waistband. Okay, now I'm going to mark here again, just so I make sure I get that exactly right. Okay. Okay, let's see. There we go. Okay, so there's that fold line. Let's go ahead and do this one. Okay. All right, so there's that. Now, so on my waistband, this is the fold line. Okay, and I've marked off the side seams. And I'm gonna put the extension in here so you can kind of see where that goes. And then this is actually the seam allowance here. Okay, and I'm just gonna put this seam allowance in so you kind of can see on the pattern where everything is. Because if I can mark this good, it will help me. Because I've got 1/2 inch of ease, I've got to ease in. Then if I can mark and keep my, seams where they go, then I'm doing good. Okay, now where's the grain? The grain arrow is right here. I can just make this fold line. That's my grain. Now, if that's too confusing, you can make another, just make another parallel line. And the reason we have the grain, so here, maybe that will make more sense to you. And my pen's running out. There, pencil. There. Okay, and how many do I need to cut? One. I think my pencil's one. Okay, my pattern is complete.